There are a lot of reforms that banks have made to customers based on reports, genuine reports verified, that went to the Consumer Protection Department of the Central Bank.
Okay.
Yes.
Remember 31st no, 29th of February.
1st of March.
1st of March. Okay, 1st
Yeah.
of March.
Yeah.
No banking day.
Yeah.
And if there was this kind of intervention that you're talking about, then the customers wouldn't have had to resort to that that strategy.
Yeah, notwithstanding that, the important thing is that the CBN has this policy in place that statistics have shown how far they have gone in terms of recovery, in terms of making genuine efforts to protect the customers. For one reason or the other, certainly all customers may not be satisfied at a go. Some could still be disenchanted for one reason or the other. And it's their due right to protest in any way that they want to protest.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, we're talking about the economy, reviving the economy. How is it, therefore, that the central bank is sitting back, watching banks take customers' money, pay the customer 4%, and then lend that same money out and be making 25%? That's 21 clear percent of profit for the bank. And you want to revive the economy. It doesn't make sense to me. But then I'm not an economist. Mr. Fashua, can you please really explain this to us?
Okay, well, harking back to what Mr. Arize said, of course, there's a Consumer Protection Department in the central bank. They are trying their best. They recovered about 6.2 billion naira from banks. Mind you, now you're caught between the rock and a hard place. So the banks are gasping for life. Do you know, I mean, there was a bank that was still
I don't know what you mean, gasping, because they're still making billions in profits.
Well, you know, I don't know where those monies come from, but what I seem to see, because, I mean, you know, there was a bank MD that was perhaps invited because of this TSA thing, a bank that is still probably holding on to some of those monies and hiding them, because they know that if they release that money. Now, the CBN is also very much concerned. You don't want your banks to start having problems. So they put in place a Consumer Protection Department, but you're running a race. You're probably never going to get it. It's a marathon, you know. So as all of this is going on, banks are trying to survive. Charges are coming in. People are complaining about, you know, those charges not being transparent enough and so on. You know, but mind you, the TSA money was moved out of the banking industry. Now that's significant. Of course, the banks will tell you there's no problem, we'll survive. But of course, what would they say? You know, but for those who know, they say, oh, you know that's a major shock to the system. However, that's not to say that the bank should go haywire and start charging. Everybody should reduce their expectations. Like you said, some are declaring I saw a bank declared about 60 billion. I don't know which bank is
One
that.
declared 99.
One declared 99.
About 3-4 days ago.
What the banks probably have to do now is to say, you know, there's nothing wrong if you declare 30, 40 billion. There's nothing wrong if you actually, I mean, listen, if you've moved out about, how much has been moved out by TSA now? Perhaps about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 trillion thereabouts. Still, you know, and now the point now is everything that comes in goes out every overnight. Nothing stays in the bank. So that money to play with is not there anymore. And that's the reason why you have that gap.
Don't you think it's the banks have got used to these huge profits?
They got used to that way of life. They need to like begin to tone it down. I mean, I recently mentioned that banks are meant to be conservative. They're meant to be. Over time, we could see how that conservatism petered out almost totally. I was in the banking industry too in the 90s into the early 2000s, you know. So, but before then, I mean, we had the merchant bank. Before you could be a branch manager of a bank, you'd be in your late 50s. But things have become a lot less conservative. Now they need to begin to get back some of that conservatism, you know, and begin to read. I mean, look, I would prefer a strong, sustainable bank that is not declaring 100 billion. I mean, you don't run that rate. And we've said it to them so many times. But a lot of them, they got too involved in the image issue. Image is everything. Oh, we want to show that we have the 150 billion to declare. And that gives, but however, you see, you must commend the present CBN governor, who was himself a banker, you know, for the policies he has been able to put in place, and, you know, going against even his own constituency.
Okay. Yes. I'll take you back to what you said about reforms to protect the customer, where now he's saying that the CBN governor is going against his own constituents. We're still looking at that intervention, 1 trillion naira intervention. There's another matter we're going to look at before we get out of here. But quickly here.
Forex,
but beside the Forex, recruitment, which they say is illegal. But before we look at that, the reforms are good. They're good. I mean, to protect the customer, to ensure that. But even that department that's supposed to respond to the complaints of the customers, a lot of the customers are saying it's not functioning. It's not. I mean, they send in complaints, they don't get a response. So how do you expect the customer to believe that the CBN is there to protect him? Because right now it looks as if the CBN is protecting its banks. It wouldn't want to see any of its banks crash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, he gave the specific figure of 6.2 billion naira that have been refunded to customers.
Which of the customers?
No, various customers.
Eh?
Sundry
customers. High-end customers.
No, it's not defined. It's not maybe high and low. But the important thing that this refund was made based on the fact that CBN put this department in place for that purpose. Now, like I said again before, you see, complaints may be coming in their deluge.
Yeah.
And human beings are the ones who will handle this. And it should be one after the other. Some may really have something cogent, important, something very serious. Some may be just as frivolous. So you have to establish these things and begin to make response. What I want us to understand is that, the fact that CBN conceived this department and is working assiduously, and the figures are showing that these reforms have been made to customers based on their complaints. I mean, we should give credit.
Setting up a department to look at how customers are treated is good. And as you said, over 6 billion are refunded. But the CBN is being investigated for allegedly violating the federal character principle in their latest recruitment. I mean...
Yeah. Like I said before, I follow trends in the CBN a whole lot since I...
Is this not a distraction? I mean...
No.
Would it not distract them from carrying out the reforms they need to?
No. You see, the federal, the recruitment you talked about, it's just based on misinformation, because CBN went through the proper process, through the FCC, Federal Character Commission, got approval for these targeted and specialized people that they recruited. And you see, I tell you one thing about corporate politics. It is driven by information. But if you are giving out information to the public, let it be the right information. So people who are talking about this are only trying to create a crisis in the system.
But what do you expect from the people if the CBN is not giving out the information? It's not giving out the right information.
I know that CBN has a corporate communications department that is quite active.
In your opinion?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Do you agree?
With which one? Which one
is the CBN giving out the kind of information it should to the public?
Well, they say that the best kind of disinfectant is sunlight. Sunlight is the best kind of disinfectant in the world. Meaning that the more transparent you make your operation in whatever you do, especially in public governance, the better for you, yourself, for everybody. To the extent that, we, I mean, I think we've been seeing a lot of names flying, and it seems like some of the politicians are getting undue advantage and so on. I'm less concerned with the issue of FCC, the Federal Character Commission, because what the Federal Character Commission is concerned with is how many Igbos are there, how many Yorubas are there, how many Hausas are there, how many Fulanis are there, how many Biro people are there. Now, that's not the way to run a central bank, if you ask me.
That's right.
We probably should focus more on the issue of professionalism. The guys that are there, are they qualified for the job they are employed for? One.
That's right.
However, very critically, and I don't think we can run away from that, is the influence of politicians on some of these processes in this country. Before you get a job, you have to get a note. The senators have the long list. They are always harassing these people. The House of Rep guys, the big politicians, the chairman of the party. So
that's why our children can't get jobs.
That's a serious problem. And while all of that was going on, everybody was trying to push for their own word. And nobody actually stays to say, look, how is it going to look like if it gets known? And you see that the people that you have put, this is not a CBN issue. I tell you, I live in Abuja. I know I go around to every parastatal in Nigeria, it suffers from that same problem. You know, it's a major issue, and therefore, now that some of these things are coming out, for true, if it's true or false. In fact, when I looked at some of those lists, I pitied the guys, the children that were employed, because a lot of them can't even bear their father's names anymore. That's a problem. Yes, if you can't bear your father's name because he doesn't want you to be linked.
You don't want to be
what
found
kind of
out.
life are you living? Now, mind you, there's the other issue to say is that, you know, sometimes when a father begins to guide their children and find them a job, you send them to the most expensive school, they can't stand on their own, you push them here, push them there, you know, but a fraction of them are going to key into their position and do very well. Another fraction will just be there loafing around because they were pushed to that position. Many of us who got to anywhere in this world was because we strapped ourselves up and went for it. We didn't know anyone.
But dint of hard work.
Yes, our politicians need to be extremely careful, and our elite as well. You know, and it's not just a CBN issue. I think it's all over the place.
Okay, now let's look at foreign exchange. They say that the exchange rate was rising mainly because of speculation. Can you please explain that to us so that we lay